Hey, so in this video, I want to talk to you about how sometimes closing costs can change and why it's important for you to be prepared to have a range of what you're going to need at closing. So when you find a house, get excited. The lender is required to send you a loan estimate within 3 business days that goes through the terms, goes through what the lender fees are, as well as attorney and what needs to be set up for your escrow account. So there are times where that number or that final number that you're going to need at closing can change prior to closing. And here's why. It may not mean that you have a bad lender, and I'll give you signs that could let you know that you have a bad lender. But things that aren't known right away are those the exact property taxes that are on the house? If it's an attorney state or a title state, regardless of what type of state that you're in, there's going to need to be an entity, whether it be the title company or the attorney's office, that obtains the title of the property. And typically what's known as an MLC, which is a municipal lien certificate, that gives a sense of property taxes and what they are and when they're paid through, and what those tax quarters or tax half years, or however the town taxes, are due and are payable. So what's your responsibility versus what's the seller's responsibility? Now, in the beginning, the lender is going to do their best to figure those out for you, but a good lender is going to tell you, hey, you should have a buffer just in case there's any more taxes that are owed that you're responsible for the day that you close. The other things is house insurance. Sometimes people are not getting their homeowner's insurance quotes right away. And as a result, that can change what's due at closing. Sometimes day of closing, and we see this happening a lot in the Northeast, and we're going into that season where a lot of houses have oil, and a lot of sellers are on automatic delivery. So as someone's selling a house, they've got a bunch of balls in the air and things that they're juggling, and they may forget that they're on automatic delivery with their oil company, and the week before closing, they get their oil tank filled. In a situation like that, numbers may change day of closing because the agent that's representing the seller may reach out to the attorney's office to say, hey, my clients filled their oil tank a week ago. The oil company prorated out what they've used. The remaining oil in the tank, the buyer is going to be responsible for. Other same day things that can happen is you go and do your final walkthrough. And let's say that now all the furniture is gone, you realize that there's issues. And those issues maybe make you uncomfortable to close, and you decide to negotiate a credit to have those items fixed. Or maybe there's what's known as an escrow holdback for what the seller is going to take care of. Sometimes that will happen. So what's really important is when you're working with a lender is that they're transparent. You know, if you get into a contract and you send your lender your sales contract and it takes a week for you to get your loan estimate, that's an absolute red flag, because they're not being compliant with RESPA guidelines of when they're supposed to get that out to you. The other thing that can be troubling is if you don't lock your interest rate. Now you get to about a week before closing and the lender says to you, hey, great news, we locked. However, we're going to have to charge you additional fees or what's known as points to get that interest rate. So locking an interest rate secures you. The other thing that's helpful is when you work with a lender that has what's known as a float down option. So if interest rates drop, the lender is able to float the interest rate down to what the new market rate is. So red flag would be not having your interest rate locked and floating. None of us can predict what's going on. Yeah, maybe here and there we can figure out best times to lock, but that's like playing roulette with your money. And we're typically advising people to lock when it's a contract that's going to close within 30 or 60 days or in less time. So these are some of the things. Other sneaky things that I'll see lenders do is, you know, when you're looking at a loan estimate, you're looking at all fees. So the top section is going to show you your lender fees. As you look down, you're going to see your legal or your titling fees. And then you're going to see what's needed to set up the account for your escrows, for your taxes and your insurance. I've sometimes seen a sneaky thing of really underestimating what's needed for an escrow account. So those are things that you want to be cautious about. Again, we like to give a buffer. So depending on the state, that buffer could be somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000. So we may say, hey, your loan estimate says that you're going to need 15,300. To over prepare you, we're going to tell you that you're going to need between 15,300 to 18,300. This way you've got an over preparation. If there's taxes that you're responsible for that maybe didn't come out accurately, that's something that can be accounted for in that buffer. And this way you're going into this with no surprises. So that's why I think a buffer is important. Other things that can change day of closing is if your day of closing changes. So the day that you close, interest begins accruing and mortgage interest is paid in arrears. So if you were closing today, you would start paying interest from today until November 1st, and your first mortgage payment would be December 1st. But if for whatever reason your closing was delayed and you ended up closing November 2nd or November 3rd, there is going to be more, what's known as more prepaid interest. So those are the reasons how things can change. If you're feeling that you're not getting transparency, by all means, reach out. We're happy to look over any estimates for you. And if this is a video that you like, leave a thumbs up if you're finding on YouTube. Thumbs down, I'll be a little sad. And share this with anyone that might be in your circle that might be thinking about buying a home so that way they could be as prepared as possible. As always, thanks.